So Ryan, let me ask you, why is your shirt so tight?
I don't do tight shirts anymore because they're for millennials who I hate.
Come on. No. Why is your ask me why my shirt's so tight?
Well, your shirt's tight because you've got some sort of psychosexual thing going on. You're really into
I'm not a
bodybuilding.
homosexual if that's what you think. I'm I'm not a
I don't think
queer.
that. I think it's the opposite. Actually, I feel like
Wait, we're here to talk about one battle after another. And
I
it's the
know, but I thought you
funniest
maybe wanted to talk through some of your body issue stuff first.
it's the funniest line in the movie, Ryan.
Is it? I didn't think it. I mean, it's pretty funny, but it's not my favorite line.
All right, what was your favorite line?
I don't know. I enjoyed Leonardo DiCaprio's use of the word homie.
Yeah.
I also I thought everything Benicio del Toro does is perfect, amazing.
I'm Grant Irving, the host when Ryan wants to talk about movies. This is Panic World, a show about how the internet warps our mind, our culture, and eventually reality. And that's the first time I did that without it being right in front of me. Joining me today, a guy I call Sensei, Ryan
That's right.
Broderick.
Hello, thank you for having me on my show.
Uh, I am thrilled to say people seem to like us talking about movies, which is really just what we want to do. And we both saw one battle after another. And fuck yeah, man, let's go.
Yeah, no, I felt like we needed to immediately record something about one battle after another. It fits perfectly into the sort of like weird America I've seen the term used type of 2020s filmmaking happening right now. A lot of our listeners wanted us to talk about Sinners. You and I will not be talking about Sinners. Perhaps we can get some more thoughtful guests on a bonus episode about Sinners, but no, I think the world does not need you and me sitting down to talk about it. Although I will throw, before we get any deeper, I will throw my top line take on Sinners out right now, which is that you could
you're doing the Eddington teenager thing
because
of
I saw people say that we should watch Sinners, and I'll throw this out, which is the beauty of Sinners is its hyper specificity, but also you could kind of do Sinners at any point in history with any marginalized group. Like you could easily do a version of Sinners that where like a Pete Buttigieg like gay was outside of like a hyper pop like trans rave in Bushwick. You could like easily do that with like almost every marginalized group that exists. So like that's the genius of Sinners to me, is that like it is so specific, but it's also very universal. I would also like to watch a movie about the Native American vampire hunters in Sinners. I would watch a whole other movie about that. Anyways, I thought like we should absolutely jump on real quick to talk about One Battle After Another, which feels very in conversation with Weapons and very in conversation with Eddington. In fact, I would sort of argue that it's just everything Eddington's doing, it's doing better as like a better movie. I think part of that is because it takes place 10 years in the future, so they can get a little fantastical with some of his stuff. But yeah, everything Eddington wants to be One Battle After Another just does like effortlessly, in my opinion.
really. I thought it started in the aughts and then was today. I didn't think it was actually set in the future.
You can read it a couple ways.
Okay, so it is not. It's
Well, let's
not.
talk about this. So the prologue ends with Perfidia basically escaping witness protection, and then you see her put on a mask to cross the Mexican border, and then she comes over the voiceover and says, 16 years later, nothing happens, something to that effect. So you
Not
could
much has
read,
changed.
yeah, you could read the movie taking place in 2026, let's say, and all of that's compressed and the timeline's a little wonky, but the stuff later in the movie, particularly involving the far right cult of St. Nicholas or whatever, and some of the job titles they're throwing around, I think actually make more sense. Also, the fact that in this movie, ICE no longer exists as a specific arm of like police. It's just police. I think the movie actually makes more sense to read it as like 10 years down the timeline we're on now. That's how I read. I think you're right. I think it does take place. It starts in the mid 2000s. I think she's in witness protection for a while. She escapes in 2020. The movie picks up in 2036. That's sort of, I think that makes the most sense in how you would read the movie.
I like that read. So I think this is a movie that instead of just like describing characters, we can like it is a very linear movie.
pretty
So
straightforward.
so let's want to just take it section by section, and I'll let me do a
Well, yeah. So
summary of.
the prologue, it follows the French 75, and who are, I think, a very smart mashup of like Occupy Wall Street, Anonymous, early Black Lives Matter. They're like a radical group, specifically targeting immigration detention facilities. Very clever, very smart. They start to splinter as things become more intense. They do like one last job kind of thing that's like a dumb robbery. They all get got except for Leonardo DiCaprio's character. The ostensible leader of the group, although we can talk kind of about the group structure later because I think that's interesting. Perfidia, Beverly Hills, she gets put in witness protection because she has like a weird sexual relationship with Sean Penn, who's kind of working his way up, something like ICE.
Yeah,
Uh,
Sean Penn like is like the basically runs the ICE facility
yeah,
when they're freeing the migrants. Um, the movie opens, it's fucking epic with them plotting to free this detention camp. And Perfidia is keeping the leader at bay, a Mr. Stephen Lockjaw, played by
yeah,
Sean Penn. Um, and while he's at gunpoint and in their sort of like trash talking, um, she tells him to get it up, and we see true love spark. It becomes very clear in that moment that he's going to be obsessed with her in a way that is undefinable and
yeah. I
creepy.
hated all of this. I hate this. In fact, it's the part of the movie where like I genuinely hate. I also think
So, wait, say why?
I think it's dumb. I think it's so dumb. I think it's part of the larger issue with all these movies, and like how they do not understand or have any sense of how to handle like the Black Lives Matter element of like modern American activism and stuff. I hate it. I think it's so dumb. I also think like the movie has to do a lot of work to tap dance around the fact that like a much more politically relevant film would have just flipped the entire thing. That it should actually be Leonardo DiCaprio's character that is like the rat. Like it is so like there's a bunch of Hollywood shit in this movie that like I think really gets in the way of it. It's fine. I love the movie, but if we're talking about it as sort of like a political thing, all this shit is so dumb to me. Sean Penn's character, fine, but the whole it gets especially stupid when like Sean Penn later in the movie is like going on a whole monologue about how great Perfidia is. It's like it's part of the Eddington problem too. Like Hollywood just cannot handle the racial optics of taking something like Black Lives Matter seriously, and it's just like a constant problem with these movies. Um,
Uh,
so I hate it. I think it's so stupid. I
did you
think like
do you
everything
hated
with
it
the
in that
daughter is
moment?
stupid. Oh yeah, no, I think everything with the daughter and Sean Penn is stupid. That whole plot line is stupid. I think it's like I said, it's a great movie. I love the movie. I think like we talked about on the Weppington episode, trying to nail the psychosexual element of the American far right, which I think is admirable. I just think Hollywood is not equipped for it. Like I think it is so stupid to be like, oh, this ICE agent is in love with this black activist. It's like fuck yourself. Like the movie makes more sense as a self insert for Paul Thomas Anderson and sort of like his anxieties about like not being relevant anymore. But like all the shit with Perfidia and Sean Penn's character, I was like, this sucks. Like, and it's not gonna age well at all. I think it's a mess. But personally,
I think I was just so taken by their performances. So we should probably go break it down a little bit more before we. So she's the leader. Leonardo DiCaprio plays Pat slash Ghetto Pat, who is just kind of like the least important member, but he's
yeah,
the
he's like the
bomb.
bomb guy. He's
He's
the
the
bomb
bomb
guy.
guy. He's not the strategic guy. He definitely has radical politics, but I think it's like you see in those early scenes that he's just obsessed and in love with her and kind of in awe of her, and
Right.
like he is down for the cause, but he's really down to like be the sidekick of this wannabe revolutionary leader.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's a very interesting character. Like ignoring my sort of gripes with how the movie is set up. Like he's a really interesting character. especially after the time skip. I think he is a very good portrait of like an Occupy guy. You know, like a younger Gen X guy who gets caught up in revolutionary politics in, like, let's say the early 2000s, and kind of knows when it's time to tap out, but he's now surrounded by people who do not. Um, and we can come back to sort of the interesting parallels, especially later in the movie, between like Anonymous and Occupy and the French 75, because I think it is kind of a fascinating thing they start to do later in the movie. But yeah, his character is interesting. And I think Perfidia's character is like well drawn as well. You get the impression that she's sort of raised in a family of Black revolutionaries, like made to think that she is like part of the Black revolutionary movement, and she will continue to be. And then the movie like has like the decision in it that I just think is so stupid, and I it's fine, whatever. Where she sells out the French 75, and then the movie takes, then the actual movie starts
Yeah,
16 years after.
so let me just fill that gap in. Um, Pat and Perfidia have a child. He's like, let's ease it up so we don't end up in prison while we're supposed to be raising our daughter. Um, it is very clear that she is restless and that is not what she's into. Um, so the remaining members of the French 75 uh, set a bomb to go off after hours in a court building, and it becomes clear that Lockjaw, Sean Penn's character, is stalking her. And then there's the real desperate one last job where they're robbing a bank to fund their revolution, and um, a security guard keeps moving, and and Perfidia shoots him, which uh, did such a good job of every time there was gunshots or violence, it did not feel cool at all. It felt loud and horrible in a way that it rarely does in movies. But then it's followed by one of the coolest car chases uh, I've seen in a movie. But Perfidia gets captured and is beat up from this chase, and Lockjaw visits her in the hospital and is like, you go to jail for the rest of your life, or possibly die, or you rat at all your friends, and you also have to admit that you love me. And
Ugh, so stupid. I just think it's so fucking dumb, man. Like
it is definitely the least developed part of
the
the.
whole movie works so much better without it. Like if you just take all that shit out, you can still make her a rat if you want to, which I think once again politically makes no sense. And then like
Say
the
why
whole
it doesn't make sense, because I really like the father daughter relationship of it all. I don't need the Sean. We're spoiling this whole movie. I didn't need the DNA test thing of it. Uh,
that was dumb. No, well, this is the problem. Like, this is why the movie works better as a movie than Eddington, and also the problem with trying to do these kinds of movies set against the backdrop of these kind of politics, which is that like the real life versions that they're playing with are still happening. Like we talked about this on Weppington, where like the
you're doing a
and that's
great
why
job of saying
I'm
Weppington,
just gonna
and
just keep saying it.
each time I think you're gonna mess it up, and you're a pro. I'm just proud
Because
of you.
on Weapons, I think the movie succeeds so well because it has like abstracted all this stuff up a couple layers. So like the movie, I think you could watch it 50 years from now and be like, yeah, that's great. Like I totally get it. And then if you watch it right now, you're like, ooh, this is this is really hitting on some stuff. One Battle After Another, I think is is a better movie. Trying to tell a father-daughter story against this kind of backdrop makes things really complicated. It's like that George R. R. Martin quote about like every time you make like one creative decision, it creates like a million avenues that you have to go down. Like the fact that they've set it up this way, you have to do something about the wife. So yeah, you could kill her off. You could make her the rat, which I think the racial politics of are strange. And like the message there is a little odd too. They clearly wanted some sort of interpersonal relationship between Sean Penn's character and Leo and the daughter, and so like this was the solution, and I just think it's dumb. because like it is so politically fraught and like strange, and it creates all sorts of other problems down the line further into the movie. And I get the impulse, and I'm not gonna like script doctor like this
Yeah,
movie that's absolutely gonna get Oscars, but
as it
it
should.
it's a great movie. But there are issues, particularly in the prologue and the transition into the main movie, that you have to do something with to make it a satisfying film. And later on, like the politics start to get really strange.
Yeah, I didn't mind the read of her affair with Lockjaw as a political tactic, but that falls apart when she becomes the rat. If it was like if like she's this ends justify the means for the revolution character, like I can use this guy, like that's cool. And if they were to do a like Leo is getting jealous of it, but like she's like, I care more about this revolution than I care about you. We're kind of in like Andor territory, and I think that's really interesting. But what
Yes,
by making her the rat, which is also just like I kind of liked it because it is humanizing in a way that like all of us are down for a lot of causes, but when it comes to actually our lives being on the line, like
but like
who is actually brave?
the optics, the
Yeah, you're
political
right.
ramifications of
Yes.
making that choice, where like they could have just easily been like, oh, we got her and we have all their communications, and now we know who they all are, and we're gonna come get them. Like
The
the
symbolism
choice
of
to
it is
make
bad. Yes.
yeah, to make the most outspoken black female character in the movie. Now, I want to get away from the prologue. One, because I hate it, and two, there's just more interesting stuff in the
Okay.
rest of the movie. But like
Like Sean Penn
things become
shirts.
more interesting when we come back with to Regina Hall's character, who I'm so glad is back. I love Regina Hall because like the whole sort of interplay between Regina Hall's character and Perfidia Tiana Taylor's character is interesting as well later in the movie. Although the ending of with Regina Hall's character is like also problematic because once again like Hollywood does not know what to do with Black Lives Matter. They clearly don't understand. They like I am not like an expert on Black Lives Matter, but I did cover it. I was like, I was part of like conversations in newsrooms trying to force editors to take it seriously to cover. Um, but like at the time, but like clearly, like Hollywood just does not know what to do with it.
What were editors saying at the time?
Well, most Gen X editors who I was working for have the exact attitude that this movie has, which is that like protest movements are inherently stupid and do not matter, and we shouldn't bother covering them.
Well, I mean, 10 out of 10. That's born out to be true. I think
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's right. We now live in a universe of protest movements, but like that don't matter, right? So like, no, it's just like it's so. This movie has like this like really noxious Gen X streak throughout it that like comes up several times in ways that like scramble the movie in a really weird way. And like once again, I really love this movie. That's why I want to get the hell away from this prologue so I can enjoy talking about it because I
I
hate it. I hate it.
I think we have successfully, because you've hated it so much, we had to do a lot more teasing out to get to the
Yeah.
why and not just you're being angry. I
It's
think we've
just
successfully
it's
done
an
that.
ugly
We
thing.
can
Okay.
now 16 years later.
You're now firmly in the part of the movie that to me reminds me the most of one of the wildest, most slept on movies of the modern era, which is Southland Tales. And I want to talk about that forever. Southland Tales, by the way, if you've never seen it,
All right, it's going to be the
uh,
next movie we're going to do because I have not seen it.
absolutely not. We are. I mean, we could. There's some really interesting shit in that movie,
I've not seen
and
it. So if you're going
so
to
it's by Richard Kelly. It was his follow up to Donnie Darko, and it is the most batshit insane movie that basically ruined his career. It stars The Rock as like a
hell, what do you mean we're not going to do it? It has the
it's
next president in it? Come
it's
on.
insane, but it is very similar in tone and sort of depiction of the future that One Battle After Another does, because like particularly the best sequence in the movie, which is the sort of like not even chase sequence, but like the sequence where Leonardo DiCaprio is basically trying to get out of the city as Sean Penn's forces are moving in. That massive like 20-minute musical sequence is like one of the greatest things
Do,
in film I've seen this
do you
year.
mean when he realizes that Perfidia was arrested, like in the? or
No. Like in
the
the
or
major
later.
set piece of the movie, like where
Yes. Okay.
they're the ICE agents or whatever are descending on the town, and they're basically
Oh my god.
using
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
they're using like a roundup as a pretext to find Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and like that's where you get the really interesting political stuff happening in the movie, because you basically get this picture of Ghetto Pat as this bumbling idiot who, because of his like sort of like naive belief in the revolution, has allowed Benicio del Toro's character to quote unquote do some do some Harriet Tubman shit. And like that's where the movie's like firing. Like that sequence is, in my mind, like the movie is worth it for that alone.
So let me just connect the dots in case people apparently people listen to this before watching movies. Um
That's crazy. Don't do that. Watch the movie first.
okay. The rest of the conversation is on the Patreon. I'm so sorry to tell you that. But the Patreon is basically free right now. Go to patreon.com/panicworld. Use the code PANICYEAR. It's celebrating that we've been around for one whole year. Wild. And yeah, you for 50 cents can listen to the rest of this along with a bunch of other stuff and make me feel good. My self-esteem is entirely dependent on Patreon numbers. Do with that what you will. Just know that. Patreon.com/panicworld, code PANICYEAR. Thank you.